Hello and welcome back to yet another video on the Alejandro Hernandez podcast. These are going to be my official picks for week 6 of the NFL season. Last week was by far my worst week when it came to predicting straight up winners and against the spread. Last week I went 5-9 picking straight up winners and 6-8 against the spread. So that's definitely below average. It's not where I want to be. I want to get back to above 500 against the spread and above 70% picking straight up. And I think that last week was an anomaly in my opinion. A bunch of upsets happened last week, a ton that you really weren't expecting. Teams like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles all lost. So that was very surprising to see. The Cardinals have had probably the biggest gaffe of any team that I've ever seen, blowing a 21-6 fourth quarter lead. That was just insane. But that's besides the point. I think this week things kind of hit a reset button. I'm picking a lot of favorites this week, and I think that that's going to be contrary to last week. Last week there was a lot of upsets. I believe this week we get back to a lot of favorites taking care of business. And that's going to start on Thursday Night Football tonight, in which the Eagles travel to MetLife to play the Giants. And I'm picking the Eagles to win this game. However, I am going to pick the Giants to cover the spread. The Giants are getting more than a touchdown in this game. And I think a trend to notice when it comes to divisional rivals playing on Thursday Night Football is usually the road team tends to struggle. And it doesn't matter how good the road team is. Philadelphia is obviously the defending Super Bowl champion. They're 4-1. They're traveling to the 1-4 Giants, and the line is -7.5. I guarantee you, if this was a regular Sunday at 1 p.m. kickoff in Philadelphia, this would be more than 10. The line would be more than 10. But since it's a Thursday Night Football road game for the Eagles, I think that they might struggle in this game, especially early. So I'm expecting the Giants to come out the gate fast. In Jackson Dart's 2 starts, they've had 2 opening drive touchdowns. They put up 14 points on 2 drives on their opening 2 drives against the Saints. So the Giants have been getting off to fast starts. However, the Eagles have been getting off to slow starts to start games. And I think this week would have been the perfect time for Philadelphia to have a bye week, but instead they're getting the exact opposite. They're getting a short week instead of time off and rest to really just figure out what's going on with their team, especially their offense. Right now, Kevin Patulio is pretty much all over the place when it comes to his play calling. He really doesn't know how to get the ball to his best players and when to get the ball to his best players. In the second half against Denver, they completely forgot Saquon Barkley was on their team. And then the week before that, they couldn't get A.J. Brown the ball. They tried getting him the ball this week. They couldn't do that correctly. So it's just really all over the place. And I think they need a bye week to really assess what the real issue is with that offense. But instead, they're getting a short week at New York. And I think the Eagles' weak offensive line, right now they're pretty weak because they're going to be without Landon Dickerson tonight, and they're with a right guard who's underperforming in the place of Mekhi Becton. So I think the Eagles' offensive line is vulnerable, and the Giants took advantage of a vulnerable offensive line in week 4 against the Chargers, and I expect them to do the same in this matchup. So despite everything I just said, I think this is a Saquon Barkley game for the Eagles. I think they should lean on him because the Giants have been struggling to stop the run. And I think Saquon can take advantage of that and have his first big game of the season. But I don't think that'll come in the first half. I think it'll come in the second half. And I think the Giants get off to a fast start. Philadelphia bounces back. They wake up. They end up winning the game. So give me the Eagles to win on Thursday Night Football. But I believe the Giants do cover the spread, which is set at +7.5. And now let's move on to Sunday, in which the New York Jets and the Broncos play in London. I'm going to have the Broncos winning and covering the spread in this game, which is set at -7.5. I really like Denver in the spot. The Jets have been all out of sorts. Obviously, they're the worst team in the NFL. They're 0-5, and I think Denver is in a great spot here. They're coming off a 2-game win streak in which their defense has been playing extremely well, and I think their defense is going to give Justin Fields a ton of trouble in this game. I think Denver's defense dominates. They get a ton of sacks on Justin Fields, and then they try to salvage it in garbage time, but I think Denver would have already put up too many points on that weak Jets defense. This game's going to get out of hand soon. I expect the Broncos to be up big in this game. I think Bo Nix and on the Broncos are going to get whatever they want on the offensive side of the ball. The Jets have not been able to stop anyone this season. They're giving up a ton of points. And then on offense, they're not getting off to fast starts. So their defense starts off slow. Their offense starts off slow. They're instantly in this massive deficit. And then it's up to Justin Fields to rack up a ton of yards in garbage time. So I think that's the same case in this game. I think Denver's defense dominates early. Bo Nix has a couple scoring drives early on in the game. They get J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey going. Denver dominates and wins in London. Give me the Broncos to win and cover the spread. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Colts versus the Arizona Cardinals. And right now, it's in the air as to whether Kyler Murray is even going to play in this game, as he's been missing practice due to a foot injury. So with that news, even if Kyler was to play this game, I would still take the Colts to win and cover, and I'm going to be doing that in this case. The line is at -7.5. The Colts, when it comes to playing bad teams this season, they have blown them all out. Miami, they blew them out. Then in week 3, they played the Titans, they blew them out. This past week, they blew out the Raiders. So they are taking care of business when it comes to playing bad teams, and the Cardinals are a bad team. They just lost to the Titans. So give me the Colts to win and cover the spread. Don't overthink this one. Jonathan Taylor is going to have a huge game against that weak Cardinals run defense. And then the flip side of the ball, the Colts defense is very opportunistic. If they play a backup quarterback, they are going to feast. So I like the Colts at home to dominate the Arizona Cardinals and win and cover the spread. And for the next game, it's going to be the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin off a bye. You don't bet against him off a bye week. Give me the Steelers to win and cover the spread, which is set at -5.5. It's a pretty low line considering it's the Browns, but then again, you also have to consider it's an AFC North rivalry. These games are always usually close. However, I like Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers and Mike Tomlin off a bye week to really, really perform well in this game. And I think their defense against Dylan Gabriel is something that I think I was encouraged by Dylan Gabriel's week 5 performance against the Vikings. I picked the Browns to upset the Vikings, and it was looking like that for a majority of the game until Carson Wentz had a legacy drive at the end of the game to win them the game. But the Browns did find themselves up 17-14 late in the fourth quarter. However, against this Steelers team, I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Carson Wentz. He proved that when they played in Ireland, and I expect Aaron Rodgers to take care of the football. I think the Steelers are going to have the quick passing game going with DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, Jonnu Smith. They get Jalen Warren back this week, which is huge. They're coming off extra rest. The Browns are coming off a trip from London back to Cleveland. So I think that this is a great spot for Pittsburgh. I would bet them to win this game and cover the spread, which is set at -5.5. And I expect the Steelers defense to be opportunistic and get turnovers off the Browns offense and Dylan Gabriel. So give me the Steelers to win and cover. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys versus the Carolina Panthers. I like the Cowboys in this spot. Give me them to win and cover. The spread is set at -3.5. And really last week, the Panthers-Dolphins game was a trap game. I had picked Miami. The odds were even, but I was kind of skeptical. I was like, why are these odds even if I believe Miami is so much better? And they were up 17-0, but Carolina stormed back. And this matchup is interesting because you have Rico Dowdle of the Panthers facing his former team. In Dallas last year, Rico Dowdle ran for 1,000 yards, and the Cowboys just cut him loose. They decided not to bring him back, and it's paid off for them as they now have Javonte Williams. But then you look at Rico Dowdle's performance last week as the lead back, rushing for over 200 yards against the Dolphins. I believe Rico Dowdle can have that same success this week against a weak Dallas run defense. So I do expect this game to be high scoring. However, Dak Prescott is playing at an MVP level right now. I would not bet against this Dallas team with the way Dak is playing, especially against weaker opponents. And that's what Dak has been great at his entire career. He's great at playing against weak opponents. And usually when Dallas plays weak opponents, they beat them. And that was the case last week against the Jets. They blew them out. So I do not expect a blowout in this game. However, I think Bryce Young, when it comes to head-to-head, Dak Prescott or Bryce Young, give me Dak Prescott 10 times out of 10. And this Dallas defense is making plays at the right times. Although they are giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points, they are making plays at the right time. I think Brian Schottenheimer has done an incredible job so far as the Dallas head coach. He's coached really, really well. And he's had this Dallas team overperforming, especially without CeeDee Lamb. So I like Dallas in the spot to win and cover. I think it will be close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout for Dallas this time around because Carolina has been figuring some things out on offense. But I like Dallas to win this game and cover the spread, which is set at -3.5. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Chargers versus the Dolphins. And I think this is a trap game. I think Miami gets to win in this spot. And the Chargers, ever since week 3, they ripped off 3 straight divisional wins against the Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, and since then they've looked awful. And it's due to the injuries. And it sucks because in the offseason I had predicted that the Chargers would have an injury-riddled season and they would miss the playoffs because of it. And it's really looking like that so far. They started off 3-0. I instantly retracted that. I was like, well, looks like the Chargers are going to be a great team this year. However, the injury bug has hit them hard. Amari Hampton on the IR spot. Najee Harris' season is done. Rashawn Slater's season is done. Now Joe Alt with a high ankle sprain. Those injuries are piling up for the Chargers, and it's affecting Justin Herbert. He has now become one of the most pressured quarterbacks and the most sacked quarterbacks in the league already, and it's week 6. So I expect Miami's pass rush to affect Justin Herbert in this game. They have Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, Jalen Phillips, Zach Sealer. The Dolphins' defensive line has some talent, and I think they can get a ton of pressure on Justin Herbert, and that could affect the Chargers' game plan in this game. As well as they're now without their standout rookie running back, Amari Hampton. Are the Chargers going to be able to take advantage of the Miami weak run defense? I don't think they can, with Hassan Haskins as the lead back. And on the flip side, Tua's been performing well despite everyone's criticism of Tua. He has been performing well. His completion percentage is very high. The addition of Darren Waller has been huge, and Jalen Waddle has stepped up as the team's wide receiver one. So I expect Miami's defense to get some turnovers off the Chargers, and I expect their pass rush to really get involved and win them the game. And the Chargers really, it's been surprising because as Jim Harbaugh is their head coach, they've been really uncharacteristically undisciplined. And last week, penalties killed them against the Commanders, and I think that's going to be the case again this week. I think they're going to be penalized a ton. I think that their offensive line is going to struggle to block the Dolphins' pass rushers, and I think Tua performs well. So give me the Dolphins in an upset to beat the Chargers at home. And now for the next game, it's going to be the Los Angeles Rams at the Baltimore Ravens. I like the Rams in this spot. I took them as big favorites last week, and they failed me miserably, but I think that this week they get the job done because the Ravens are just that bad right now without Lamar Jackson. And I think that the Ravens, the way that they've performed to start the year really showcases why Lamar Jackson was worthy of those MVP awards, because without Lamar, they have looked absolutely awful. They've looked like the worst team in the league. Their defense is awful right now, and against that Rams offense, that's just a massive mismatch. It's probably the worst mismatch that we've seen all season long in the NFL. You have the Rams offense who is blossoming right now with Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams. Matthew Stafford's playing the best football of his career. And on the flip side, you have the Ravens defense who's right now on pace to give up the most points all time in an entire season. So when you combine those two factors together, obviously you take the Rams and the points. The spread is set at -7.5. I think the Rams covered that easily, especially if the Ravens are without Lamar Jackson, and that's where it's trending. Cooper Rush looked awful last week against the Texans defense. I think the Rams defense have a lot of similarities to the Texans besides their cornerback room. But the Ravens don't really have anyone that can take the top off the defense. Zay Flowers isn't a great number one. So I don't think that the Ravens can attack the Rams secondary the way that the Niners did last week. So give me the Rams to win and cover the spread in a blowout. Now for the next game, it's going to be the New England Patriots against the Saints. And this is a potential trap game for the Patriots. They're coming off their biggest win in God knows how long. It's been a long time since the Patriots have really played competitive football, and when winning football games has actually mattered for the Patriots, it's been a long time. I believe it's been since Mac Jones' rookie year since the Patriots were good, and this year they're finally good again. But I think Mike Vrabel is the type of coach where he's not going to have his team lose focus after a win like that. I think they're going to come into this week against the Saints and carry that momentum into this game against the Saints, and I think their defense is going to dominate this game. The game is in New Orleans. I expect the Patriots to get great pass rush and affect Spencer Rattler. They stopped the run at one of the best rates in the NFL. They completely shut down James Cook last week. And the Saints have Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller. There's not really much bright spots on the Saints offense. And on the flip side, Drake May and Stephon Diggs have found their connection, and they're capitalizing on that. I expect a big week from Stephon Diggs. I believe the Patriots defense creates turnovers, and the Patriots find a way to win this game. It could be ugly, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think the Patriots are going to blow out the Saints, but I do believe the Patriots do pull out this victory due to situational football. They will get the better of the Saints. So give me the Patriots to win and cover the spread on the road, which is set at -3.5. It's the Seattle Seahawks versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I like the Jags to win this game. People think that this is going to be a fallback week for the Jags because the Seahawks are coming off a loss and the Jags are coming off their biggest win. Like the Patriots, the Jags are coming off their biggest win since that playoff game when Trevor Lawrence beat the Chargers. This is the Jags' biggest win since then. But I think Liam Cohen and the Jags are legit this year. And I'm picking them to win at home against the Seahawks. And I know that the Seahawks record on the road has been extremely impressive to start the year. I don't think that matters in this spot because I think the Jags, when it comes to matchups, when we're talking just strictly matchups, the Jags defense versus Sam Darnold. We saw what happened to Sam Darnold last year when he traveled to Jacksonville in Minnesota. He threw 3 picks. He looked awful against this Jags defense. Now he's facing the same exact Jags defense this year. And although he's in Seattle now, obviously it's a different situation. I think Sam Darnold will struggle in this game. The Jags are causing the most turnovers out of any team, out of any defense in the league. And Sam Darnold is a turnover-prone quarterback. So I expect Jacksonville to continue that trend, force I'd say 2 or 3 turnovers in this game off the Seahawks. And on the flip side, I think they get Travis Etienne going. And this passing game finally clicked against the Chiefs. They were finally able to get Brian Thomas going and Travis Hunter going. So I expect them to build off that against an injury-riddled Seahawks secondary. So give me the Jags to win straight up at home. The odds are even right now. It's -115 Jacksonville, -110 Seattle. I like Jags. I like the Jags in this spot. And I think Trevor Lawrence builds on that momentum. The Jags build on that momentum and move to 5-1. So give me the Jaguars to win. Now we'll move on to the 405, 425 slate. We have the Tennessee Titans versus the Raiders. This is just ass versus ass, if I'm being honest. It's two bad teams going against each other. I will not be tuning into this game. And however, if I had to pick a team, it would be the Raiders. I can't bet on Brian Callahan. I cannot. That's the Titans head coach. I cannot bring myself to bet on on a Brian Callahan led football team. And they lucked out last week against the Cardinals. The Cardinals fumbled the game away multiple times. DeMercado fumbling the ball as he's crossing the goal line, and then the cornerback fumbling the ball by himself, kicking it into the end zone. Like, that was just the luckiest win I've ever seen. And the Titans did not deserve it, and that's going to extend Brian Callahan's job a couple weeks, but I think the Raiders do get the job done this week. I think it'll be ugly. Geno Smith is playing among one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He's turning the ball over at an extremely high rate, and I think Tennessee has the ability to turn him over a couple times in this game. But I think that Geno Smith will get in the way of the Raiders blowing out the Titans, so I expect the Titans to cover. Though I expect the Raiders to win, and the Titans to cover the spread, which is set up +4.5. I think it's an ugly win for the Raiders. I think Carlson wins it on a walk-off field goal, or Geno Smith drives them down the field to win the game on a game-winning drive. So yeah, it's just really just a bad matchup for it's bad team. It's a bad team versus a bad team. I expect the Raiders to win, but I think it'll be ugly. Now for the next game, it's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Green Bay Packers, and I like the Packers to win and absolutely stomp all over the Bengals. I think this is going to be very similar to the Broncos-Bengals game on Monday Night Football. This game is in Green Bay. Green Bay is coming off a bye week. They're pissed off because they lost to the Browns and tied to the Cowboys, who are teams that they were expected to beat. And I think they get the job done this week against Cincinnati in blowout fashion. I expect a big game from Josh Jacobs. They're going to get that run game going. And on the flip side, you have Joe Flacco getting traded to the Bengals. I think that was an awful move by the Bengals. If you were to get any quarterback, why would you go for the most immobile quarterback that's out there with the state of your offensive line? Currently, you have the worst offensive line in all of football, and it's not close. Why would you put a 40-year-old quarterback behind that offensive line? It makes zero sense to me. I think the Bengals are going to massively struggle on offense. They can't get the run game going with Chase Brown, and I think Joe Flacco is going to take a ton of sacks in this game against that vaunted Packers pass rush. So give me the Packers to win. I don't care how big the number is. The number is -14.5. I think Green Bay wins by 3+ touchdowns. So give me the Packers to win and cover. Now for the next game, it's going to be the 49ers versus the Bucks. I like the Bucks to win and cover the spread. I think the Niners, I wouldn't say they lucked out. That was just an excellent coaching performance from Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh from the 49ers. But I also believe that Sean McVay coached a poor game for the Rams. I think that their special teams also bailed out the Niners. Joshua Carty missing a field goal and having his extra point blocked. So I think a lot of things went for the Niners' favor in that game, and I expect that to turn around in this game. The Bucks, I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a shootout. The Bucks defense does give up a lot of points, but I expect Baker Mayfield, who's playing at an MVP caliber level, to once again will his team to victory in this game. So give me the Bucks to win and cover the spread, which is set at -3.5. Baker Mayfield's going to be throwing it all over the yard the same way Matthew Stafford did last week. Stafford threw for 375 against the Niners last week. I expect Baker Mayfield to throw for over 300 yards and multiple touchdowns in this game against that injury-riddled Niners defense. So give me the Bucks to win a shootout against the Niners. I do expect Mac Jones to have some success against that weak Bucks defense, but ultimately in the fourth quarter, Baker Mayfield will win the game for the Bucks. So give me the Bucks to win and cover the spread. Now for the next game, it's going to be Sunday Night Football, Chiefs versus Lions, and I'm not that confident in this pick, but it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid. I've said this every week, you don't bet against these guys. So give me the Chiefs to win and cover the spread at home. They're favored, which is surprising. I think a lot of people are going to lean Lions because they're getting them at great value. And you look at the records, the Lions are 4-1, the Chiefs are 2-3. How the hell are the Chiefs favored? And I look at the Lions cornerbacks. Terrion Arnold and DJ Reed are both out. That is huge. And Mahomes is back to playing at his MVP caliber level. The past 2 years, Mahomes has been putting up subpar numbers, but the Chiefs have been winning. Now Mahomes is putting up great numbers, and the Chiefs are losing. But I do expect the Chiefs to win this game. And I think Patrick Mahomes pulls it out in the clutch. The over-under for this game is set at 52.5. That is a massive number, so that means Vegas is expecting this to be a shootout. I also expect this to be a shootout because I think the Chiefs' defense is going to struggle. They can get pressure with 4, and Jared Goff is perfect when he's kept clean. So I think Jared Goff is going to have a ton of success on the Lions side of the ball. I think the Lions score a ton of points, but the Chiefs do keep up with them because of the Lions' injuries in the secondary. So I expect this to be a shootout, but give me the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes to orchestrate a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter and win the game late in an absolute brilliant finish on Sunday Night Football. I think the Chiefs win in a thriller. Bills-Falcons game, I like the Bills to win and cover the spread, which is set at -4.5. I think that right now this is a great get-back spot for the Bills. Although the Falcons are coming off a bye, I don't really trust Raheem Morris and that coaching staff to outcoach Sean McDermott and the Bills coaching staff. And I think last week the Bills fumbled the game away. They had 2 fumbles and an interception. That's very uncharacteristic of a Bills team. I think this week they get back on track, and their defense is going to have to create some turnovers on Michael Penix. And I think it's a high-scoring game, but I trust Josh Allen and James Cook and the Bills team to get it done on the road on Monday Night Football against the Falcons. So give me the Bills and Josh Allen to get the win and bounce back after last week's disappointing loss. I think the Bills bounce back and win in Atlanta. So give me the Bills to win and cover the spread, which is set at -4.5. I think it's a high-scoring game, but the Bills win by a touchdown. And now for the final game of Monday Night Football, Bears-Commanders. Give me the Chicago Bears to upset the Commanders. I'm a believer in Caleb Williams and this Bears team. And I think this is going to be an absolute shootout. I think Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels go head-to-head. And I expect that Caleb Williams is going to finally have his moment. And he's yet to have his moment yet. His signature win. What has been his signature win so far in his NFL career? You're going to point to Week 3 against Dallas. I think he tops that performance. I think he throws for 5 touchdowns in this game against the Commanders. And it's going to be a very, very high-scoring game. The Bears defense can't get any stops, but I expect Caleb Williams to play his best game as a pro and win a thriller on Monday Night Football. The spread is -4.5 in favor of Washington. I think that's disrespectful to the Bears coming off a bye week. I think that Ben Johnson has scripted up a ton of plays for the Bears to be successful in this spot. I trust Ben Johnson and I trust Caleb Williams to get the job done in Washington and win in a thriller, in a high-scoring game. Give me Caleb Williams to have his coming-out party against the Commanders and upset them. And that is going to be it for this week's picks, and I will see you guys next week for when I drop my ranking on the top 10 teams in the NFL after Week 6. But until then, I will see you guys next time.